Alrighty, well, I've got no shirt on, but before too long I might be headed down to my dam slash giant pond to have a bit of a swim, because it is basically 90 degrees Fahrenheit. 89 technically, I think. Anyway, yeah. Been thinking a bit more about all this caravan hire thing. I think there's better options available to me. I can sort of see how this is all going to end up going. You know, I'm going to get these vans. Sure, I get them cheap. I get them bloody cheap. So cheap that you couldn't actually get your head around it. Not in Australian terms anyway. The thing is though, probably only be hiring a lot of these old bangers for $80 a week. A lot of them have got water damage. 80% of them, that is their reason for ending up in these salvage auctions, is water damage. Just the way it is. Anyway, in that you've got to spend a lot of time fixing up the framing, which is usually 1x2 wood, and you got to rip all the plywood out. You know, I'll probably end up, you know, if I need to replace a mattress, there goes another $500. Probably replace the carpet, put a fridge in that's not one of those propane fridges or something like that, you know, and it sort of goes on and it goes on. And I can see that some of these things, you know, a lot of them need the water obviously resealed out of them, so that means a lot of silicone. You know, they could do with a repaint inside, and quite honestly a lot of them could do with a repaint outside. You know, and I can just see that this, I'll buy it on the cheap, and then by the time it's all said and done, it'll be, you know, $2,000 later. Although I could have bought a nice one perfect for $3,000, or you know, something like that. Maybe $1,500 later, and 2 months down the track and a whole stack of work, and then you rent it for $80 a day. Versus, I'm hoping I can get people to take up weekly rentals. Not necessarily saying I will, just so that I can basically hold down a full-time job until these things get going, and maybe have to have Monday morning off, which you do when you work afternoon shift, you know, and pick up a few of these things, you know, on Saturday morning and stuff like that, to, you know, redistribute them on Monday morning. That's the hope that I can do that. I don't know how practical it all is, but I will tell you that there are plenty of things out there where, like, you think, this van, by the time you piss around, it costs you $1,500, you know, and I'll get the phone here. Okay, calculator. So we get $1,500, 2 months of pissing around, and we'll divide that by $80. So that'll take basically 19 weeks to pay itself off, and 6 months is 25 weeks. And you know, you pissed around for 2 months with this thing. To then have to drive to the capital with bloody bad brakes on it, or brake problems, some of them won't go on, most of the time they won't come off the damn brakes, then have to, before I even do that, go and check their house out to check out it's not one of these ones on a reasonably steep angle, because there's, you know, hilly areas, and it's just about kill your transmission getting the frickin' thing, you know, getting their own cars up the driveway, and it would be suicidal trying to get some of these blasted, you know, it would be transmission killer trying to get these caravans into these areas. Then what happens if they've got a tight driveway, you clip the bloody edge of the house, you know, all this shit for $80 a week, and yet I can press buttons on this phone again and show you some of the prices that everybody else is hiring shit for. Okay. Now, I'm thinking more along the lines of heavier things, particularly concrete demolition saws, mainly generators, and it's not looking brilliant, but it wouldn't be out of the question. Water pumps, and the other one is generators that can run welders, because there's not certain ones, and you've got to know what ones you're picking for that. And intriguing thing is, with all this shit, I mean, this list I got up now shows weekly prices as well as daily prices. I'm not joking when I say you can buy a brand spanking new generator and it will pay itself off in 6 weeks of hiring it. I'm not frickin' joking. So why would you wait 19 weeks after struggling through the capital, just about rear-ending everyone with something with brakes that are no good, to go like hell trying to get it up someone's driveway and not friggin' take out their fence, all to get $80 a week? It just doesn't, you know. It's a lot of hard yakka for jack shit return, really speaking, you know. You're putting your money to work, but by hell there's a lot better things you could put your money to work at. So we'll look at that. Some of you guys might remember that pump. It never quite got finished. We stuck it up in a high up shelf the other day. The Briggs and Stratton one that my father was working on there for a while. That was basically a 40mm outlet, more or less speaking. It's a 2-inch pump. And they hire those when all this wants to play ball. $180 a week, I'm not joking. Now, that isn't really anything big. Let's go to the really good shit, like demolition saws that I can buy for $3,000 with a trolley. And there you go there, demo saw, 16-inch. And $500 a week. And this isn't going to show it. There you go. There's an electric one there. $500 for the 16-inch, $450 for the 14-inch. These are basically one of those, and you can get a trolley that pushes them along. I've actually used these things while working as a temp for the local government, and we're doing roadworks, basically patch-ups of potholes that have got really significantly bad. A lot of it was suburban streets. People complain, and you might patch it up, and then, you know, you throw a bit of stuff in the hole, and then you give it 6 months, and it just goes to absolute shit, and it all. So you got to go and do a proper job, which means getting one of those, and then taking to a backhoe and ripping all the shit out, and you got to sort of scrape out with a shovel, and then you refill it with concrete, and you got what they call a screed, which is like basic, well, it's just a frickin' plank on the end of a bloody broom handle, spread it out, and then you fire up the whacker, and you run over with the plate vibrator, which I don't have a picture of, and spray it with water to cool it down, because it is seriously frickin' hot. That's the way they've got to be with these. Anyway, getting off track now. There's 3.5 kVA generator, which is basically mine's a 3.3, $200 a week. And then you get a 4.4 silence, $250 a week. Big bastard. Some of you, I don't know if you've ever seen it, that monstrous size bloody 3-phase thing that my uncle had here. That was 14 kVA. Now, have a look here. You're looking at 130 a week. No, a day for that. 450 a week for 20 kVA. 350 a week for a 10 kVA. Yes. That's not a joke. So that thing, realistically speaking, you'd be looking at, what did we say, 390, probably 400 a week to rent that thing. And I can't remember what he got it for. It's a twin-cylinder Lister Peter. It's like they often enough they use them in boats because they're so highly reliable. They're British-built, air-cooled 2-cylinder engine, and they, holy fucking cow, they go through fuel like you didn't know something could go through fuel. Jeez, they can drink fuel and things. But, you know, it's a powerful machine. It was a lighting tower. The lights had all been stripped off it, but it still had like the scissor lift part in the middle, which had all just sort of seized up and whatnot. Another thing I noticed is that even forklifts they hire out, which haven't been in forklift driving for many years. I sort of know who's who in the zoo. 1.8 tonner and $380 a week for the 1.8 tonner, and they've got a 4 tonner, 4.5 or something, which is $400 a week. So basically, one of them, and they've cut the tines out of the picture. You know, you're looking at $380 a week. I can buy them things for $7 grand, $7.5 grand, and that's one that's in quite good condition. Surprising what you can get, what for. The big thing I'm really interested in is the welders and welder generators. If you've ever seen a welder generator, they have a lot of ones that are basically the Lincoln brand, and Lincoln Electric and stuff like that, and they're 3 or 4 cylinder, and by hell, you know, you can get welding rods that are like my little finger, and those, I trying to find where the hell it is. I don't think it's in the list I downloaded. I think it's on a lot of people that don't have a list where you can actually go through a list like this and look at what they got and look at the prices like that. They're just everything. Give us a call, we'll quote you. You know, it's like, fuck, can you not tell me? It's like, imagine going into a supermarket and wanting to buy a heap of shit and they go, oh, we'll quote you on that. You know, ring us up and we'll quote you. Fuck off, I just want to buy some fucking breakfast cereal. You know, it's all round and round in circles sort of thing. But there were some where, a lot of them, they just don't have any prices. There are a handful, and you've really got to search to even find these lists. I've got about 3 of these lists, and I've still got another one that's in a web page that I've still got to try and work out how to download or bring up on a laptop and print out or something like that. But basically, there are a handful that will show you the prices, but most of them won't show you the prices on their web pages, and very few give you a list like that. In that, I saw one that was, what was it? $700 to $800 a week. Now I can buy these sort of things like not a proper Lincoln one, but a very basic thing, $4 grand. You know, for one that uses a Ford engine and is mounted on a trailer frame, $4 grand. And yet you can hire the thing out for $700 or $800 a week. In some cases it's only $500 a week. It depends how big they are. But yeah, I think it's one of these things. I have an easy market when it comes to old people, because there's a particular newspaper they give out, and that is read by a hell of a lot of old people because it's directed at old people and it talks about a lot of different things, and the advertising is, you will get a response. Seriously, people do read it, and I have had responses when I had my business last time, and by hell it is cheap. It comes out monthly, and it'll be $100 to get a decent sized ad in there, and you will get calls from it, and it's something that, you know, and with that, I've been in quite a good position for, what's his name, for the caravans and all that shit, because it's, you know, sort of a target market. For older caravans, there's people who are just about ready to go in a nursing home, but then get thrown on one of these bloody 2-year-long waiting lists that they have on nursing homes and so on and so forth. Cruisers coming in there. This is the thing, how am I going to access the target market with all this? And I know what you're going to say, oh, just advertising this or advertising that, and it's... When I saw the prices of advertising in America, I was freaking stunned. Here, the cost of advertising will just about kill your business before you manage to get anything happening. I mean, seriously, I used to, aside from that newspaper, I used to put an ad in the newspaper and I would get back literally half of what I paid for the ad before I took out my fuel costs and wear and tear and costs of buying tools. I might go down and talk to my uncle, who is a painter, and see if he's got an idea of the best way of going about it. If there's not people he can't introduce me to that, you know, would be in need of demolition saws and whatnot. You can make quite a bit of money with some of these things, even the little Kangas, which are like a little loader. You know, they're quite a substantial amount. They're $220 a frickin' day, sometimes $260 a day. They will cost you brand new about $10,500, and then your attachments are like about $1,000 each or something like that. That's when everything's going all good. I've seen mini excavators. They usually range, if it's a real, you know, if you set a not a very official place, i.e. you're renting it out of somebody's backyard, they're $220. You want a more official place, it's at least $280 to $350. And these excavators I can buy for $18,000. Yeah, long story short, you know, I have pondered on the idea of, this is the thing, my father is very good at hydraulic rams, and I mean very good at them, because he worked out, you know, he got a quote to fix one of those rams on that thing. They said minimum $3,000, maybe $5,000. He thought, fucking hell. And then got talking to the guys in the hydraulics place, and they said, fuck that, you don't replace the whole ring, you don't send it to, forget about that, get new seals. $3,000 to $5,000, and he went around to several joints, and all of them saying minimum $3,000, minimum $2,500, but you're probably looking at $3,000 or $4,000. You know, most of them around the $3,000 mark. One even quoted, you know, $3,000 to $5,000 to fix these hydraulic rams. It was $57 because he went into the hydraulics place and he said, "Is there some way I can go around this? Is there a cheaper method?" And they said, "Of course there is. You replace the seals." $57 later, he replaced these seals. Yes, you need a bloody big socket to undo some of these things. Yes, there's another tool that you need at the back that he can actually make up using a bit of 3.5 mil, which is basically 1/8 of inch plate. And bada bing, you know, he'd done all the bloody hydraulic rams on that. So I might be on the lookout for somebody who has given up on an excavator because the thing leaks oil like an absolute bitch, and maybe needs you know, 1 or 2 other minor things, you know, and then go ahead and just do what needs to be done to fix it up and hire them out. Because really, seriously, like, shit, some of these things. If I could hire the bastard for 2 days a week, I'd never need to work again, you know what I'm saying? And that is one machine. You know, I look at some of these generator prices. There's a welder price in there that they had, and it's Ryobi welders, right? Basically speaking, they're shit. You know, they are pretty dismal. They're not too bad, Ryobi, but it's not like the friggin' MIG welder I've got over there that's, oh, what's the brand of it? I've got a bloody hat for it too, that even come with it, like a baseball cap. MIG-O-Mag is a good one. SIG-Weld is the one I've got. Not a SIG-Weld, which is bloody nice, not a MIG-O-Mag, which is also a big, you know, professional brand line aimed at, you know, people who use them all day long, engineers and shit like that. This was a shitbox Ryobi, and they wanted, what was it, $40 or $44 a day to hire this thing, and I thought, fuck off, they're worth peanuts. Like, you literally, there's no way known they would be any more than $300. They're probably only $200 worth. And you think they're thinking, geez, this thing's going to pay for itself quick. But I wouldn't even touch that shit, because when you have people hiring shit, you know, they're gonna slam it pretty hard. Some dickheads don't know what they're doing. You don't want to hand them a shitbox brand. You want to hand them a good one, you know. And I can go and buy Migo Mag arc welders. My one is a proper MIG welder. That costs, what was it, like $680 or something like that. And that's actually got the gas function and everything. It'll do aluminium, it'll do the whole friggin' lot. A lot of people don't know what they're doing, and they can fuck these things up. They get the tips jammed up and tangle everything up inside. You don't want a dickhead using a MIG. But an arc, they're pretty forgiving. A lot of these ones have got over temperature cut out and all these sort of things. And you know, I can get one, I'm not joking, they are tiny. Like if you've used welders in the past, as back in, let's just say the last time you used a welder was in the 90s, even the late 90s. You got no idea what they're like today. These welders today are probably about, just imagine two of these stacked on top of each other, and that's and maybe another couple of inches, 3 inches longer, and that's your welder of today. New technology, inverter technology, a new generation. There's no longer a big shit ton of windings, and if there is, you're being sold a cheap one, the shit brand, because only shit brands use the big heap of windings. The good ones, you know, I'm not saying they're shit, they work, you know, but they warm up and whatnot, but your good ones are your inverters, and you know, they're absolutely tiny. They are, just so I got this here, they're probably only about to that thickness, and maybe another 3 inches longer than that or something. They are so ridiculously small, it is hard to actually believe it. $300. There's a bit of an anomaly in all this, especially in all these guys in these friggin' things, in those lists I've shown. They hire everything, and I mean they'll hire you just bullshit. Earmuffs, you know, axe, sledgehammer. I'm pretty sure one of them even had like a claw hammer. You know, and you just think, and oh, but it only hires for $3 a day. Yeah, but I can go and buy one for $2. You know what I'm saying? There's some of these things where I wouldn't even bother pissing around with these low-value things. You know, oh, set of earmuffs. Well, so what? You know, I got an absolute rip-roaring professional set here, and I think they cost me $30, and these are the best of the best of the best. Which are, them runs right there. Made by 3M. I mean, these are admittedly a few years old, but when they come out, these are like $35, and they are the absolute ants pants 5 years ago. That's the paint from when I was little flecks you can see. That's from when I was painting the laundry. So I don't like the noise of that airless spray gun because it's rather loud. Anyways, there's no point trying to hire this low value shit. You know, oh, you can hire a 9-inch angle grinder for $45 a day. Yeah, well, wasn't that long ago you could fucking buy one for $100. You know what I'm saying? There's no point. Sure, they pay themselves off quick, but, you know, and even like saber saws, and I don't even think, you know, cordless ones, I think they're corded. I'm pretty certain I've seen them for $99 a day. Or something like that. No, maybe it was $45. But that cost $100 for fuck's sake, you know? Sure, I had to buy the battery separately, but, I mean, you know, if you get a normal corded one, honestly, I don't think they're worth any more than $50 anyway. And there's no point going for low value stuff because nobody wants to frickin' hire it. They only get the low value stuff when they come there to do a tile job. So what they'll do is they'll say, rightio, we want a jackhammer on a trolley and we want the tile lifting connection thingo with it. And then they'll say, well, what the hell, we don't have any good earmuffs. We've got safety glasses, yeah, but we don't have any good earmuffs. We'll get a few earmuffs. Oh, and we'll get a brick chisel, a claw hammer, you know, shit like that as well. It's, you know, and we need a spotlight so we can see what we're doing because we're going to be working at night still, blah, 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 blah. You know, they're just throwing all these little extras only because you happen to have them there at the time. But it's just a waste of time to even bother really with these small things because they can all go down to the hardware store and get a cheap shit Chinese one for the higher cost of what it is to have one for 2 days anyway. You know, so I want to stick to high value items and particularly generators and water pumps, and I should show you one day the whole power map setup of this place, and they decided it was a smart idea to close the power station. Oh, it's the dirtiest one in Australia, and the next thing it was the dirtiest coal power station in the world, and it's only burning brown coal, not black coal, and you know, don't put a scrubber on it or anything, just close it all together. They've closed that in the middle of they're going to close it next year, after this summer is over. Next summer, there will be fucking hell to pay because there won't be enough power to run the air conditioners. They were concerned that Christmas Day there wouldn't be enough power to run the air conditioners. People talk a lot of shit about what we should do is we should export the power from these wind turbines and charge a tariff when we export it to the next state so that they have to pay a tariff and blah, blah, blah. They're full of shit. We don't export any power. We import heaps of power from both states beside us. And in fact, the capital is completely dependent on power coming from New South Wales during the summer. And you might remember Black Saturday, 64 or 68 people or whatever it was died in fires. And long story short, I'll just draw the power map now. You've got a bay like that, and you've got the city is sort of around the bay like that, and there's another city. There's the western suburbs, there's the northern suburbs, and this is sort of all the eastern suburbs, and there's a big white trash area down there. Long story short, they've got power lines that come in through the top. All of this up the top here is all forest. These people that burnt to death were there. When the forest burns out, it takes out the power lines coming from New South Wales, and they are fucked. I think they didn't have as much forest cut underneath the power lines. Now they cut a wider forest. But during the time that those people were killed, these power lines literally fucking melted and collapsed. And even though to the east they have what is actually, it's technically 5 seams of coal, but sometimes there's only like literally a foot of dirt between one seam of coal and the next. If you disregard that 1 foot of dirt, it's actually the thickest coal seam in the world. It is a quarter of the known worldwide reserves of brown coal in this one valley. They have power stations and whole towns built on power stations there. Having said that, they lose the power lines from New South Wales due to bushfire in the forest above the capital, and there's a bloody lot of forest up there, and they have to cut the city into 3 different segments. And although we have quarter of the known world reserves of brown coal and power stations all over them, this one they're closing is in that same area. It's one of the early ones. When we lose the power lines from New South Wales, they split the city into 3 areas, and you get 12 hours of power there, then 12 there, then 12 there, then 12 there, then 12 there, and they give you rotating amount of power, because even though they have a quarter of the world's known reserves of brown coal in that valley, they still don't have enough fucking power generation to hold up their own capital in the own state that is literally, was 70 or 80 miles from the capital, and they don't have enough to power the fucking capital. So much coal and still not enough power stations to power the capital without running on power coming from New South Wales. Bloody stupid. And now they're going to close one down. And all we need is the glorious comet. In fact, even if the power lines didn't burn out from New South Wales, as they said, if Christmas Day is too hot, it might cause the power grid to collapse. This year, they said this, purely because there's so many air conditioners running. And it happens every frickin' year. There's power outages because there's not enough power lines, just like there's not enough bloody roads, and they cancel the building of a tunnel and threw $824 million to the wind, and we've got an 80% built tunnel that nobody's ever going to use now. Just like the roads are congested, there is simply not enough power lines going through the place. And yeah, when they close the power station as well, when we're already having power troubles with power from New South Wales and that old power station, everybody's going to want a generator in the middle of summer, and I could make a fucking killing. I could buy up generators in advance, you know, and you get good ones for like $1,000. Mine cost basically $1,000, and even really good branded inverter ones, 1.4 kVA for, at the moment they're going for $900-ish. I think it's about 860 actually. Cromlins, which is a really good brand, very good brand. I've seen them on building sites and that, you know, and you could resell the bastards for $5,000 in the middle of a desperate situation. You know, nobody have any real thing for them, but honestly, all you need to do is just go around the right places, and these power outages hit. It's people are, you could get money hand over fist just by having a shitbox little generator, because people just want to run the air conditioner and the freezers, and that's it. You know, and I think even if you manage to run a friggin' evaporative cooler in their freezers, they'd be happy. You know, and yeah, we are the state for too many people, too quick and crumbling, well, just not inadequate. So they're actually putting, this was their hope, this is their idea, right, to get out of this trouble, it's funny how much I know about the power grid, even though I live off grid. With all these solar panels that are getting on everyone's roof, the idea was that the lack of power coming in from the power stations would be alleviated by these solar panels on everyone's roof, with the hope that everyone hits the solar panel up, you know, like turns the air conditioner on when the solar panels are getting power. Now, we had a couple of overcast days recently. They were hot, they were fucking humid, more humid than I've ever experienced in the whole time I've lived here, you know, probably 10 years, to be honest. I haven't experienced humidity like that for friggin' 10 years, I reckon, you know, since before I was even here, outside of when I went to the tropics, and it was overcast, and my little fan that gets the air through the roof space was only just running, just putting along, barely going, because it was overcast. The sun wasn't coming through, it was humid. Those days aren't accounted for. Those days you're just going to have to suffer a power outage if too many people turn on the air conditioners. But the hope is that when everybody goes and turns the air conditioners on, all these solar panels will take up the slack. And they have gone so stupid now that we have smart meters, and I'm not joking, one of the functions of these things, other than to charge the bejesus out of your power wise, they're actually going to do more or less an Enron. Change the power price as they felt like it, and you can go on a website and find out what the power price is. But if you didn't have the app and you didn't go on the website, you know, and this is what Enron tried to do in the late 90s, you know, you can see the power price on your screen, you got to get on the website, and everybody said, who's got time to go look at the fucking website to see if it's worth running this or running that, you know, and why should we just give us a fucking set power price, stop pulling the prices up and down? But this is part of the idea of smart meters. Then it's even worse, because they can actually decide, if they want, that they can turn off certain devices. They can decide they're going to turn off your electric hot water system. And I hope to fuck they can't decide they're going to turn off air conditioners. And I think that may be one of the ones that they can turn off, because electronically, when these things somehow know all the different appliances that you've got if you've wired it up a certain way into these smart meters or into your distribution board, then they can literally turn off everybody's hot water system. And if they turn off it, and there's been a bit of a fuss about this, if they turn off everyone's air conditioner, they said you'll probably kill all the old people in the process, and then who's to blame, you know? Then what happens? The power company, oh, well, we had the computer set to do it when it was fucking certain amount of power draw. Yeah, well, you just killed a bunch of people on a 100-degree day, you know? And they're worried about the old people having their air conditions cut off, you know, shit like that. But anyway, that's the shit you got to face in this country being on the grid. And you've also got to face having to pay something like about $50,000 to have the power connected if you're in my situation. And at the end of the day, they can all get stuffed and they'll just go off grid.